Oh, oh my gosh. I won't be able to see yet.
Do you want to put it on the floor?
Well, just.
Oh, what about right here?
Yeah, that's great. I'm just saying, you know, if I won't be able to see anybody. Not that it looks like there's going to be that many people here, so. Yeah, that's great. Okay, as long as people can. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. Yeah. Chris's comment was, whoops. Yeah.
Hello. Oh, it's loud. Hello. Hello, hello. Hello. Howdy, howdy.
I even remembered to put in my hearing aids. Wonders never cease. Of course, glasses, hearing aids, and mic. I don't know which is going to fly off faster.
Glasses I never forget.
Well, I'm just saying, but when we were wearing masks, if I had masks and my glasses on, and it was during the winter and a hat, it was like.
Hello, Naga. Welcome. Hi. Good morning. Are there more people?
Hi, guys. Hello. Hi, John. Okay. Well, I said I was going to start on time. I have 9:30. What time does it stay on the magic box? Okay. Well, hi. Good morning. Oops, got to turn it on. Oops, so it's already on. I was already, oh, well, people are hearing me. So, well, thank you all for being here. I really, really appreciate it. Just a little bit of, not housekeeping, but out on the table are all the books that I've collected over the years on death and dying. I think 5 of them are Lama Zopa Rinpoche in progressive And there is it's on Urbina's website, but there's how to enjoy a happy death, and it's been copied off the website. It's like 300 pages long. And that is the basis from which this book happened. And this is just Rubina's opinion, but she likes what Wisdom Publications did with this and how what she handed them is laid out. She said she likes better. I mean, that's all. Yeah, that's all. So now that doesn't mean it is better. Everybody finds their own way, but that was just, her opinion. They're right on her website. Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. Does anybody not have one of these? Because these did not get taken last week. And one, here. If you want to, okay. Great, no, thank the center, they're sharing it. So maybe somebody will come in. So I'm just gonna set up an intention, which is my intention is that I may be of benefit to all of you with some clear information and have able to answer questions that aren't above my pay grade. So that's my intention, and my intention for all of you is that it be of benefit to your mind and give you tools to support your mind, and also ways of talking with people that you care about as they are sick or ill, okay? So, omahum, omahum, omahum. Lama Zopa used to say, if you don't set an intention, it's like planting a tree with the roots in the air. I've got a couple of thank yous. One is to Donna, which is, this is so different, not the information, than the one I did in 2018, because at that time the center wasn't, didn't have the capacity to store these if you wanted, so that the center knew what you wanted. And that's just wonderful. And so there's going to be a way that that's going to happen if you choose to do it. The other thing she did, because I don't have a techno gene in my body, she was able to put all the links and the lists of things that I thought might be helpful on the website that you'll be able to access at any time, not just for this workshop. And the next thank you is to Transitions, which is the primary area hospice, but there is some competition with the hospitals. They want to do their own thing. And they have offered me and Chucky, when she used to do it, tremendous support in knowing how to ask for what you need and what they are able to offer. So, and even one of the experiences we're going to have today and some of the materials that they gave me. So I'm just really grateful for that. And then Carrie, who, let's all clap, just graduated from the chaplaincy training at Pius Center. And he has been awarded a residency at Rex UNC, and so we have a resident expert, and he has a time commitment, so as soon as I do a little overview, he's going to talk, because I don't want him to be in a time crunch, and I think he has just crucial, really important information to offer. And anyways, he's fun to listen to. So kind of the overview is Carrie's going to talk, even if it sounds kind of a little bit out of place in terms of what we're doing. And then, let's see, what am I going to do? Then we're going to do an experiential thing that's very easy and simple to do. that they lent me the cards from transitions. Then the third thing I'm going to do is just briefly try and go over some of the, well, I don't know. We'll decide if we're going to do Dharma will first. I'm going to go over the Dharma will and kind of hit any things that, that you have questions about, and then resources, but we may flip that depending on what makes the most sense. So, without further ado, you can just pull up a seat if you want. You don't have to, we're not standing on a lot of, oh, here, do you want this? Yeah, does this? Okay, good enough. Let me turn this off, okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Venerable Khando and Donna. You got to hold it up, is that better? Can you hear me now? Okay, so. There we go, okay. So my name is Kerry Brief, and I'm a member here at the center. And as Khando said, I just graduated in March from Upaya Center, which is a Zen center in Santa Fe. And it was a 2-year Master's of Buddhist Chaplaincy. And before that, I had done, in 2020, I did a unit of CPE, which is the practical training to become a chaplain. CPE stands for Clinical Pastoral Education. I did that at UNC Hospitals, August 2020, during COVID. Quite an experience in death and dying and being with people, in difficult situations. So what I want to talk to you about today is what is chaplaincy, and how, if you're in the hospital or you have a loved one that's in the hospital, how chaplaincy can be of benefit. I think, from being now involved in chaplaincy officially these last 4 years, I think people have a distorted view of what a chaplain is, and I had a distorted view of what a chaplain was before I started it. I thought it was a Christian based practice or profession, and there are chaplains of every faith. There are humanistic and atheist chaplains. You don't have to be of any particular faith. There are religious chaplains, and that term is used interchangeably. But what chaplaincy really is a way of meeting people in their time of need, coming from a place of compassion and care, not from a place of religiosity. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It doesn't mean that you couldn't be in the hospital and a chaplain will knock on the door and they'll come in and proselytize. That can happen. It's not supposed to happen, but we, can't control every aspect of a situation. But most of the times I was in the hospital and they would come to the door, I'd expect them to proselytize, so I'd just say, no, thank you. Not realizing what they were there for was just to come alongside and support me, and not necessarily have a discussion that has anything to do with religion or spirituality. That could be part of it. It's really, it can be guided by the person in the bed, what your need is or your family's need is. And I didn't understand that until I was in the position of the other side. So that's, I think, important to know. And I guess another thing to understand about chaplaincy, in UNC, which was 1,100 or 1,200 beds, overnight there was one chaplain, a single chaplain for the whole hospital. And a chaplain in a hospital like that is responsible for going to every death, every level 1 trauma, every code, and then all the requests for a visit from a chaplain. So, 8 to 10 miles a night you'd walk. Yeah, it's a big place. So if someone's in the hospital and they need to talk to someone. Hoping someone will just show up is probably not the best way to get a visit. There's an office of pastoral care or chaplaincy or spiritual care. They use different names in different places. I think Transitions now calls it spiritual care. They don't call it chaplaincy anymore. It's the same practice, but they use a different term because people were saying, no, thank you, I don't want the religious aspect. So they used the word spiritual care, and all of a sudden the visits went up. So, you can call the office and say, I'd like to talk to somebody. That's one way you can.
Now, is that Transitions or in the hospital?
Anywhere.
Okay, but
Anywhere.
just to be clear.
Yes. In Transitions, they use the term spiritual care. And different hospitals call it a different thing, but ultimately it's a chaplain that'll come visit you. Now, there's another thing you can do, and it's another thing that's offered by those departments. If you have someone that you would like to see, someone, a religious figure, a spiritual figure, someone that you have a relationship with, you can ask them to reach out, and they will come and, or they will make those calls for you. That's something that they also do in those departments. So if you want to see someone specifically from a particular tradition, or your family member does, they can't guarantee they'll show up, but they can make the call and reach out and say, hey, so-and-so from your congregation is in the hospital and they were hoping you could come pay a visit, or make a call, depending on the situation.
So at least at UNC, the department to call is named what?
It's the chaplaincy department. Yeah. David was asking, what is the person you should call, or the department? So at UNC, it's the Department of Pastoral Care or the chaplaincy department, and they give it different names in different facilities.
Right. And so Transitions is
Spiritual care.
spiritual care?
Yeah.
Okay.
Department
Thanks.
of Spiritual Care, yeah. So what makes a chaplain, I think is also important to understand. So the CPE education model, which is where chaplains train, chaplains in training, work in the hospital as chaplains. They actually offer spiritual care to people in need. And at Rex, there are no staff chaplains. UNC has anywhere between 8 and 12, depending on who's there and on staff. But there are no staff chaplains at Rex because there's not money for it. That's really where, it's not the need. The need is great, but the funds aren't there. So at Rex, it's either resident chaplains, or who are people who already have worked as chaplains and have done earlier units of CPE, so they've trained, and most of them have a master's. They also have some spiritual or religious training. So if you're trained to become a priest or a rabbi or an imam or other religious trainings, part of those trainings require you to work as a chaplain, at least 1 or 2 units of CPE. So you're actually, whether or not you want to do it as a career, you have the ability and the actual practice of being with people who are sick, being with people who are dying. So that when you're, working in a place like this, or in a church or a temple, that you actually have some history of doing those things. You haven't just learned it on paper. And then as you go through the practice, studying, there's not just a practical where you go into the room and you spend time with people. You also offer care to doctors and nurses and family members. It's not only for people who are in the hospital for their own medical needs. It's really for everybody. Because a lot of times you'll be in a visit with a patient, you'll come out of the room and the nurse needs to talk to somebody. So there's really no time when you're not offering care. And as a Buddhist and, coming to chaplaincy from years of volunteering, I think Buddhism, and it's, I guess, a good segue that Rex is looking to become a center of Buddhist chaplaincy. Yeah. Through one of my cohort members in the Upaya training is there now in her final 4th unit of the residency, and I'm starting there. They have been really inspired by what Buddhism brings to chaplaincy. The not knowing, the view of impermanence that we learn through our practice, the simple meditation practices of paying attention to our breath and being, engaged in the present moment is so important to chaplaincy, regardless of what your faith is. When you're in the room with someone, you need to be present as a chaplain. You can't be thinking about what I have to do next. You need to be really present, in this moment, not in, what's going to happen, this person has an MRI in an hour. Like, you need to be here with them now, right now. And our practice, grounds us in the present. And I guess through, my classmate and the time I've spent there, they really found how important it was. So that's really wonderful because, and it's also, over the last 10 years, more Buddhist chaplains have been hired across the country than chaplains of other faiths. Because a Buddhist chaplain is basically an interfaith chaplain. Because Buddhists don't proselytize. When I go into the room, I found that people thought I was whatever they were. Because I didn't come in saying, hey, I'm a Buddhist, by the way. I think at UNC, I mentioned it twice. Once because someone else was a Buddhist, so I thought it might be important to mention. And the other time because someone asked me. But all the other times, I was just a person coming to meet another person, regardless of their faith. And I wasn't there to bring my faith. Of course, I come with my faith. I can't leave it. But I'm also not there to force it on anybody. That's not what it's about. At least where I come from, chaplaincy. And the training that I've received and the readings I've done and talking to other chaplains, that's really, I think, what underlies it. But again, it's important to understand that not everybody practices it that way. We can't control how other people practice their own faith or chaplaincy or medicine, and we don't get to control those things. So if you're in the hospital or your loved one's in the hospital, what's important is to ask for what you need. So if you need someone to chant with you, or to guide you in a meditation, or to say nothing, to just sit with you silent, just to be with you, you can ask for that if you have the ability to. And that's really important because the chaplain is there not to push their agenda or even what they think you need, but to offer what you need. And I think if a chaplain is really being present, they'll ask you if it's not clear. Say, do you need a prayer? Would that be helpful? Do you want to just talk? And most of the conversations I had in my time at UNC were not religious in nature. Were not about faith. They were just about, talking to another person. They were about gardening or someone's children or something they regretted. It was all across the board, but it usually was not about faith. Occasionally it came up. I think a lot of times it's expected that there'll be some prayer at the end or some religiosity, and it doesn't have to be. But I think people kind of expect it. They have a preconceived notion of what a visit should be. And so sometimes they ask for it in the end. You know, sometimes they really need it. People really need it and want it, and that's fine. You know, we're there to offer what is needed and helpful. But it's, you know, if that's not what you need, you don't have to have it, you know. And that's kind of about what today is, about figuring out what you think you need. And you know, having this there present at that time can be really helpful, so you get what is you believe you need. We all need different things, and that's fine. There's no right or wrong to what we get from this. But, you know, I think the most important thing is that, you know, chaplains are there to support, to come from a place of compassion, and to help you if you need that type of help, you know. Yeah. Do you have any questions, or does anybody have an experience?
Can I add a couple of things?
Sure.
One of the things that I talked to Carrie about is that when there's, you know, always social workers in the hospital that are probably just as slammed as the chaplains. But if you are running into obstacles and you're not quite sure, like how to talk to the nurses or how to get them sharing information, just all the things that can happen in an institution with its rules and regs and demands. The chaplain is also someone that can help you with that.
Yeah, to be an advocate.
I didn't want to be so strong as an advocate because that tends to be where I go. Go down the hall, kicking ass and taking names. So I think that's a really important thing to remember, especially like saying to the nurse, I really need to be here when the doctor comes in and does rounds today.
Sure.
You know, those kinds of things. So I think that's really important to know, that whether you really want to talk to them or not, if you have a practical problem of how to navigate the system. And I'll give a really strong example. A friend of mine, his wife was on dialysis, but she was admitted to the hospital for a variety of reasons, and it was during the height of COVID. The nurses station wouldn't call him back. He couldn't get to the doctor. I mean, I know they were overloaded, and they refused to let him come in and see her, even when she was dying. Well, if I had known at the time, well, I actually didn't know about this until, you know, the fact that his wife Susan had been in the hospital. But that would have been a perfect place to have talked to the chaplain.
Sure.
And for example, if someone is truly passing, you get to see them.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really important thing to know. And I'll let Carrie finish, and then I'll kind of tell you a funny story. And I think chaplains are also there to support you in the fact that spiritual or religious preference, I will use the word religious, you know, here, always trumps the law, unless it's absolutely impossible to do. So I think that's a really important thing. When the knee-jerk response is no, we can't do that,
Right.
that's not always coming from a useful place. And the chaplain can also
Be an advocate in that
be an
situation,
advocate
yeah.
for, this is reasonable stuff. So sorry to kind of bump your...
That's okay. The advocate part is important. Because chaplains are kind of unique in the hospital, because we're not medical professionals. We can't fix or change a situation, you know, the health situation. We're not there to do that. But because we don't have a medical role, we're kind of separate from that. So, I mean, a nurse, I guess, could also help you know, if you have someone that's really connected with you, but a lot of times they're just part of that system. So while we're included in it, we're also separate from it. And so, so we can, you know, help in that way. You know, if someone didn't get a meal, or I mean, something as simple as that, and the nurse isn't answering the call button, we can go out to the nurse's station and say, hey, you know, this person didn't get their meal. Or you know, something as simple as that, which is not a small thing, really, when you're sitting there waiting and you're hungry. But any of those little things, you know, and not, again, every chaplain will be different, but, you know, the intention is to be of support and help. And so, in a lot of ways, making phone calls, doing little things that are just kind of impossible for the person in the bed.
So in regards to advocating, are you advocating for the patient specifically? Because, I mean, what, in your example, Venerable Khando, was, you know, they wouldn't let this family member in, but what if that person that was dying didn't want that person in? You know, I mean,
But they
maybe
would,
it wasn't
they
in
would
that
be
case.
asked. But this was her husband and the medical power of attorney.
Yeah, I was saying,
So,
maybe it wasn't
yeah.
that case,
Yeah.
but you are specifically advocating for the patient.
And for the family.
Yeah, and for the
Both.
family, I think it depends on the situation.
Yeah.
You know, and in that, you know, obviously you have to do your homework. So in that situation, if someone didn't want someone else there,
Yeah.
well, then the patient would be the priority to advocate
And
for.
so then are you aware of their wishes? Like I'm just thinking of Buddhism because, you know, for me and maybe many other Buddhists, you want to die peacefully, you want to die without people touching you and crying over you and things like this. So, you know, family members and friends may not get that. And so, you know, are you aware of the patient's wishes?
You certainly try to be.
Okay.
You know, I mean, that's absolutely. And try to fulfill them if at all possible.
Yeah, so interesting.
You know, I guess, and again, this is what's important about what we're here to do today. If someone's in the hospital and can't make their wishes known, then becomes really difficult for anyone to know what they want and to fulfill that. So that becomes a challenge. And just because someone asked doesn't mean we can actually do it. You know, we can try. We don't get to control things either, but, and I don't know how often that happens. I think during COVID it happened a lot, that whole situation.
Yeah.
I don't think that's so much an issue today, but it could be, could be.
And I think the broader use of this workshop, hopefully, is that if you have close people in your life that you will, you know, hopefully be present with when they're, you know, seriously ill. And many people, you know, they do not want to talk about death. You know, it's just not something on the they want on the table. And the point of the Dharma wheel and the 5 wishes as a tool, and I'll be talking about both, is that I have found that you can open the conversation by saying, you know, especially if you have a little bit of a decent relationship with them, is saying, you know, there's things that I can't do anymore, you know, like whatever. And at some point, as you get older, there's things you're not going to be able to do for yourself. And if for some reason you just end up in the hospital with like a surgery or something, at that time you're not going to be able to do things for yourself. And so it would be really, really helpful to me, who's someone who cares about you, to know, what would you like? You know, what kind of environment, you know, what will help you be peaceful? And you can even go to the point of, like, you know, when you can't kind of get on your iPad or your computer to play music or do something, what kinds of things would you like to hear? And so that really opens up the door to a conversation about supporting someone when they cannot do things from themselves. Now, there is a bigger question, but that at some point is encouraging people to have an advanced life directive. So, and in terms of hospitals and nursing homes and other things, the 5 wishes is legally binding in 46 out of the 50 states. Now, might you have to talk to the chaplain about advocating for that? Yes. And I'm going to just use an example there very briefly. In 2016, I was in the hospital for a major colon surgery. And I don't know, the day before or something, the anesthesiologist came in to kind of tell me what was going to be happening and what they were going to be using. You know, it's all Greek to me. And she said, well, do you have any questions? And I said, yeah, I do. And I have a very important request. I said, I don't think, this is not the kind of surgery where one would expect one to die on the table. But it could happen. And so what I want you to know is if for some reason, after, everybody's efforts, I'm gone, all you see is flatline, then even though you're in the OR, I do not want my body touched. The nuns will be here, and they are to come in and do prayers. And she looked at me, and she just about came off the bed, and she said, well, we have to try to resuscitate you at least once. And I said, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about when you as the anesthesiologist have to call it. That's when everybody backs up. And that's what I need. And she said, I will do my best to make that happen. But I'm just going to go with the expectation it's not. But that's an example of my being able to ask for something and it was heard. Now, who knows what would have happened, but I could try. So that's, whatever. And if you have a family member, they could say, this is what needs to happen. This person is very, very devoted. And regarding all of that, we'll talk about organ donation later, okay? So, sorry to chime in. Great question, Linda. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carrie, for your presentation. I've had very little interaction with chaplains, mostly in prison. And last year, I was helping to caregive for a gentleman who had advanced Huntington's disease. And I received a phone call, or a voicemail was left from the chaplain at UNC. And all they said was, Stephen's in the hospital. And my name is such and such. And I tried to call the number back multiple times. I called the hospital itself. They said he was no longer a patient there. So I was kind of at a loss, because why is a chaplain calling me in the middle of the night, right? And I think you pretty much cleared it up for me. I wish I would have had that insight last year, because I had not a clue. I thought that the only reason a chaplain would be contacting me is because they weren't expecting him to live. And that was not the case. Because of his disease, he could not remember things like phone numbers and how to contact. And so I guess the chaplain had to go through, and I never got an answer from UNC, because I'm like, why has a chaplain contacted me and I can't get in touch with anyone even to find out where he's at, if he's alive. And so it's really confusing, and I probably lashed out a lot more than I should have, because I had no clarity. You know, I thought it was only because of a death situation that they would be contacting me.
Yeah. So, Mark, is your question in a situation like that when there was no response, what might you do in order to kind of find something out? Is that?
Well, I think I had a preconceived idea
Right.
of what a chaplain was. And so not really a question, but just, you know, the clarity that you have given me here today, I would just wish I would have had that.
Yeah.
Well, you know, part of the situation, so there's HIPAA rules. And those supersede everything. So that's probably why he didn't leave any information. I would only assume that your friend asked him to call you, but he wouldn't be allowed to leave any information as far as your friend's health status. And if you called back and he was no longer a patient, they actually couldn't give you any information to his status. They're not allowed. And that's very frustrating. And it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, but those are the rules and the laws. And, you know, they're checked up on. I mean, they're really intensely protective of information. You know, if this is the first thing they taught us when we were learning the system there, that if we went in and searched for a family member or a famous person that might be in a hospital, we would instantly be fired. And they would know you did it, because the system knows. They know that I'm not going to go, you know, it happens with people, you know, looking at basketball players, let's say. Let's say someone gets hurt, you know, and they're in the hospital for an ankle surgery, and someone looks them up and they're not on their care team, they will lose their job. So the information issue is incredibly important. And so that probably is why you didn't get an answer. I couldn't tell you why they called and what his health situation was, but hopefully you have a little more information now after this time. But if you had talked to him, you know, on the phone, he might have been able to say, so-and-so told me to call and want you to know X and whatever the issue was. But they definitely couldn't leave a message beyond from this. You know, it's unfortunate you weren't able to get in touch with anybody, but the staff, due to the number of people in the hospital, is really low. And it makes it really difficult to give all the care that's needed to the people on the outside, the people on the inside, family members, friends. It is a challenge, definitely.
Okay. I'm just going to add something about that situation. One of the things that I learned to do was when people said to me, you know, I can't talk to you, you're not medical power of attorney. I said, I understand that and I respect that. And it is not illegal for you to listen to me. And at that point was able, at least I got some information, like even saying who you were. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that would have worked in your case. But at the same time, just because they tell you you can't, they can't share, doesn't mean if there's pertinent information, you can't share it with them. And I have actually found in several situations, craziest, that they've been willing to listen and told me what department to call or what to tell the actual, they didn't even have to acknowledge that the person was there. But they can tell me what, so that helps. David, I'm sorry.
Carrie, I guess what you're saying is if I or a person ends up in the hospital, needs a chaplain to pass on a message, then what you need to say to the chaplain is, please call so-and-so and tell them that I'm in such and such situation, I'm in room X at the so-and-so hospital, you're authorized to tell them all that stuff, then you, as chaplain, would know you can do it.
Yes, exactly. It's not, if someone says, just call my friend, you can, that's all you've given permission to do. And it's really, it's important to be careful with that information. To not just, oh yeah, this person's in the hospital and they have this and that. No, that's not, we have to be careful with our speech, right speech.
Yeah, but when you want to communicate it to spouse or close friends, then you want them to know some things so they know what to do and what to think about it and whether to rush to the hospital or stay home.
Yeah, so
whatever.
that is allowed. But yeah, the speech, where it gets really complicated, let's say someone's taken into the emergency room. And we meet the ambulance drivers, we get some information about, what they think of the situation is. And then we, as a chaplain, in that situation, we go look for the family members in the waiting room or try to find out if there's anybody here, friends, whoever. But we can't give medical status. We're not medical doctors. The doctor could, obviously, could come and say, your friend, your husband, your wife, whoever this is the situation. But obviously, as a chaplain, I couldn't do that. I could say, yeah, they're being seen, or, they're in a room, whatever, those details, but medical details we're not approved to talk about.
But if I, as patient, was there, say, had a car accident, got kind of banged up, but I'm doing pretty well, I can tell you, the chaplain, all that. Even if I can't make a phone call, you could call my spouse or friend,
Sure.
my brother, whatever, and
Yeah,
I
if
can
you've
tell.
given me permission, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've got to tell you, please call my brother at such and such number, and so on, in order to make it happen.
Yeah. Yes.
Then you're authorized.
That's a good question.
Hey, Carrie, there's a request on Zoom for website information for the clinical pastoral education and the master's education program that you had. If
Okay.
you don't have the website, maybe just say, what
Sure, so
the
you
names
can,
of them so she can search.
you can search ACPE, I believe it's .org, which I believe stands for Association of Clinical Pastoral Education. And they are one of the accrediting bodies where you get board certified. They're the largest one. So you can, excuse me, you can go to their website and find out tremendous information about chaplaincy there, and also where you can go and do the trainings. Here, Wake Med, Duke, Rex, and UNC all offer those trainings. There's a couple places where you can do Buddhist chaplaincy training, which is not CPE. It's the educational and spiritual study of chaplaincy. So Upaya, which is upaya.org, is where I studied. There's also the University of the West has a very good program, which is in California. They have a low residency training. And I think Naropa also has chaplaincy
Right,
training.
and the Zen Center of New York.
Zen Center, New York, can't forget that. Yes, they also have one. And those are, I think, the four. Oh,
Right.
where's that located?
Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
Yeah.
The comment was, my Tripa College in Portland, Oregon now has one.
Okay.
That's an FPMT organization.
Right.
Oh.
So, Carrie, if people want to, actually talk to you, am I free to share your phone number? Is that
Sure.
okay?
Sure, I can
Okay.
give us,
What?
sure,
Yeah, okay. So,
email's good. I can
Okay.
give you my card and you can. fill it
okay,
out.
we'll just, okay, thank you, okay.
You're welcome.
So, any other questions? It's kind of time to kind of wrap up. You need to
Yeah,
head out.
you
Well,
have a
I mean,
lot
you
of
also need to
information.
head out. You've got to go set up for a practice he offers once a month? Yeah. So,
Well, thank you very much for having me.
yeah. Super duper, thank you, thank you, thank you. Oops. Here you go. Fix transition the buttons. Okay, who here has their electronic stuff? Oh, well, there you go. Thank you very much. Tablet, phone, whatever. So if, let me pull up my iPad. There should be where's my iPad? I don't think there's, so actually it's gonna be easier. Donna, you made copies of this for me, right? I'm looking for it. So you can pull it up online. No, where's, you had a folder here for me, right? Where'd Donna go? Oh, here it is. I think this is it. Okay, so, well, there's plenty of people here. So if somebody would pass these out, take one set. There you go. I'd appreciate it. And then, Alex, you have a job too. Would you give everyone one of these? And I'm going to see if I can pull up. I had it all written down and, okay, so, plus, come on, just do it. Okay, so if you want to use your electronics, okay, and you can go to, this is it, Go Wish, GOWISH, 2018. And that's all you need to put in, and it will come, an electronic version of it will come up. Okay? So here are the guidelines for this. There are 36 cards in this deck, and you have Alex is bringing you the sheet. And what is that it's for you to list whether something is very, very important, somewhat important, or not important, and with each card. Okay. And, oh, thanks. But the catch is, you need to, I want you to do it, or the instructions is to rank it based on what you're gonna, it's 9 o'clock in the morning, and you're going to have physical death by 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So have at it, and then we'll, take a chance we'll talk. So, what? I know, well, there you go. See, that's the challenge. Linda, if I go like this, will I stop being sound? And it doesn't have to be your first reaction, but don't get too obsessive about it. But you will notice that when you move through the cards, something will come up and it's like, oh, that one is very important. And you may take something off your very important list and move it down. Thanks. People that are, YouTubing or Zooming, you can go to Go Wish 2000 and, where is it? Go Wish 2018, and it will immediately take you to that game. It just, all I did was put in well, but I didn't even have to do that. I just put in, but if you go to gowish.org, it should be able to fill up. But if you just put in, it might be because it was my history, I don't know. So, and
It says Go Wish 2018 Code Alliance. Right.
I'm not finding anything that I can use without downloading the app.
Yeah, because you can go to, what's the website? Gowish.org. Yeah, gowish.org. There isn't gowish.com. That's different.
Try gowish.org.
I've tried both com and org. Okay, I'll try it without the 2018. They did it a long time ago, so.
I typed Go Wish 2018 and I got it. Code Alliance comes Go Wish 2018 Code Alliance, and then there is gowish.com.
There you go. Yeah. I was gonna say, I know, we've got to pray a little bit.
So it's called Code Alliance. Codealliance.org. I can go /Go Wish. They have cards.
Yeah, I can get to that, but it doesn't, it's nothing usable. It just gives me the categories, the ability to buy it. Okay, try Go Wish online. English. I can't really read cards.
I have to turn off this.
I'll just turn it. Let's see. Mm.
And this was whoops, sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure that you're audible on Zoom.
Okay, so you can once you get it organized, you can take a screenshot of it or picture of it. You know, that's just something that was shared with me that made perfect sense that I didn't think of. Well, that's one way of doing it, where you could just lay them out and then take, you have a phone? I'm not, I mean, it's like, well, you can go online and look at when you get online, you go to the website and put the numbers down and look at them. And so you could, then see what each one is. But you can also write it, there's space to write it. I mean, when I did it, I wrote it. Yeah, I did. There were numbers on the back. Right. Yeah, I didn't know that was the time. No, I mean, it's a help, but I mean, it's not, it's not gonna work for you. How are people doing? About how much, like another 5 minutes, would that be helpful, or do you need longer? Right. But not to make the list. Yeah, I hear you. Well, I think what it highlights is that there's a lot of things here that can be done that are just people know about, and that if it's really important to you, leaving it to the last minute may not be the most skillful thing to do. And that's why, the Dharma wheel and, the 5 wishes can, it's a way of sharing with people.
Are those books given to people? The one you had, Venerable?
Carmen, this is the last one left. So if you want dibs on it, you're welcome to have it. And we can, you come to the, I don't know when you'll come to the center again.
This is Naga asking.
Oh,
Can they save it or no?
okay, okay. Okay. So if you want it, we could, I'm willing to mail it to you. I can mail it, if you just pay for the shipping, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure. Are you speaking to me or Carmen?
Carmen, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, who was asking about it? I'm sorry, I got lost.
Naga is asking me.
Okay, Naga, I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
apologize. Naga, I can mail this to you if you're willing to
Okay.
pay for the shipping. Does that work for you?
Yeah, I can come. I may come during Venerable, the Lingdom Rinpoche. So if Donna can save it until then.
Someone else is going to have to save it for her. But it can get lost. So probably
Okay.
the best thing is it can be
Yeah,
sent,
sure.
to mail it
Okay.
to you if
I
you
can,
really
I
want
can,
to get it.
yeah, I can send the shipping price.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. I'll take care of that. Okay.
Thank you.
So I'll make sure you have my email address, so you can, whatever. We'll figure it out. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Before it's over. Yeah, you're welcome. Happy to do. Well, how about yep, it's still on. It's 20 of 11, so, and we only have till 12:30, and that's a hard 12:30 because of the puja at 1:30. So why don't people, if you need to take a break, why don't you take a break? But it's 10:40, let's be back by 10:50, and for those that are finishing up, it'll give you another 10 minutes. Okey dokey? You showed up, I'm grateful you answered the phone, and it's perfect. No, complications. And
Never mind, just,
Doesn't matter.
just let it go, Chris.
It's
Let
in the
it go,
past.
let
It's
it
in the
go.
past. We don't have to worry about it.
That's right,
Yeah.
it's all working out.
It's all working
It was part of the conditions to get it all
out.
working.
Yeah, so
There
thank
you
you.
go.
There you go. How's your new dog?
How's my new dog?
Yeah, 7 minutes.
Oh, she's a $60 new dog. One less discovered kid right there was fire death yesterday. Pretty good. Really cool. Chewy, and this morning she sees that dog bed as we were taking our dogs outside. Anyway.
Like they're still using.
Just kind of get
Yeah, and crates,
consciously.
and crates.
We bought a new crate, so we have a crate in the bedroom, a crate in Barnes' office, 3 crates in storage room upstairs.
Right. So, yeah.
So it's all moving in the right direction.
Yeah. But, you know, settling in and transition. How old is she?
10 months to a year.
Okay.
But she was with Bonster, anyway. Yeah. She's a cutie. She's a real cutie. That's what dogs are all about.
Yes.
And us loving them and giving them food.
Yes, yeah. Sorry, I didn't bring any snacks. I missed that part.
Yes. Give me all of that. 75 is great, yeah. It was just cold first thing this morning. Yes, thank you.
Oh, I know. It was just this.
It's biochemist.
There's a book where he has a dialogue with his father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, what was like.
Right. Yeah. And his photographs. You know what I'm gonna send you the link to? Is, he does thought of the week.
Oh, really?
And,
I didn't find it.
well, it's his name, MatthewRicard.org. And you can get it, he'll send it to you. He always has a photograph, and sometimes for him, sometimes for me. But his photographs are beyond amazing.
Yeah. There were a couple.
Yeah, so just, you might enjoy reading that.
You know, when you said your thoughts speak out, so that's another. There's a guy who did mine with the moms on the other side. So right there.
Oh, Mom's from Khando.
Yes. Moms on the side. Anyway.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Yeah. Oh, Elise and
But they were showing like I was looking at I was there, but they're talking about the building and I it's all connected. Just that. As they were you and profile. They're showing pictures of profile. Wow, that was cool.
Yeah.
Recognize it.
Yeah.
And then the having to doing.
Yeah.
Elise was a full service agency. You know, snacks, paper, you know, she's just.
Just so you know that. Okay, so let's kind of come back together, please. All right, thank you.
I need a keeper. Okay. Michael, we're going to try to come back together. So, yeah, did you? Okay. Okie dokie. So, okay. Before we get started, whoops, am I on? Yes, I am. I'm going to do a short infomercial. On April 28th, is that right, Michael? Michael, yeah, at 5:30 p.m., Beatlesque, starring Michael Flaherty, will be at Joyner Park in Wake Forest, right? And it's a free concert. They're fabulous. A group of us went in when he was in wherever he was, and Sanford, and we had a ball. I have pictures of Susie dancing in the aisles. So, which is not something that anybody would think about Susie doing. So, just FYI, great afternoon, pack a picnic, whatever. So, a way of cherishing this precious human rebirth and creating some joy for yourself. Thank you. So, everybody's done. So, would anybody like to make any comments, share anything? Did they, learn something that they weren't quite aware of? Whatever. Any? Such a chatty group. As long as you're not being at. And Zoom people also, if you have any comments, we would be happy to hear from you. David, sorry.
I put at the top of my list, have someone who will listen, because who knows what the circumstances could really be, and who knows if I'll even be with a doctor or anything at the time. So I just put that at the top, and then to be mentally aware and have family. Those are my top three. Mm-hmm. But I found it very hard to choose. Every one of those is a good idea, it seems like. And
mm-hmm. Well, another way of doing this, because I will make sure we get people the free one that you can do online, is you can look at it 5 days out. You know what I mean? You can give yourself some more time. I did this because it goes with death is certain, the time is unknowable, the causes of death are many, and the only thing that helps at the time of death is, spiritual practice and not stuff or people, whatever. So, thank you, David. Anyone else want to chime in?
Yes,
Michael.
I consider the most important things are to me, I wrote to be free from anxiety, which I rephrased as to die with a peaceful mind. I consider that really important, and dying at home would be nice. I don't think it's anything that you can control depending on what illness you're dying from. And to have family with me, but that has its limits too in terms of when I die, and then again, the idea insisting on joy and no crying and no sadness. That's a pretty tough expectation. And to keep my sense of humor, I consider that important too. But some of the things just seem very much like ego grasping, matters of ego that, I want to know my life was fulfilling. I want to, some of those things just seem like that's not the stuff I'd want,
Yeah. I hear that, but I also think that if,
Thank you, Don.
what they talk about is dying with no regrets. And a way of thinking about that is, was I of benefit to others? That what in your history made your life meaningful that, as a Buddhist, you might want to, what seeds do you want to carry forward? Is that, I kind of translate it. Go ahead, Donna.
If you're on Zoom and you want to participate, please raise your hand. And if you're on YouTube, well, actually, I don't think chat is working in YouTube right now. So if you're on Zoom and you want to participate, raise your hand and we'll get you in the conversation.
Thank you, Donna.
Well, I've thought about this, and one thing that I know will help me is doing bodhicitta practice.
Right.
So when I went through these, I was looking at things like being able to help others, like having my death be of benefit, having, preventing arguments so that there's peace in the family and with me, and
Harmony around you.
and harmony around me, yeah. So, I was really thinking about this in terms of bodhicitta and how I can reinforce that with my wishes.
Okay. And I think when we do the Dharma wheel, you'll see a lot of ways that you
Yeah.
can do that,
Yeah.
okay?
And the thing you just talked about, I was thinking, I know someone who was dying, who was a Dharma practitioner, but he was a doctor with the CDC, and he was having a lot of trouble, a lot of fear. And the teacher at the time said to him, well, think about all the great work you did all over the world as a doctor. And that helped him let go of that fear and have good feelings about himself. So it's probably pretty different for different people.
and
who
if-
knows what's going to happen.
And that's remembering all the seeds
Yeah.
that you've planted that, will ripen at some
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
So, okay.
Also, I was just going to say, so many of those things are things that we should be working on now that you probably won't be able to suddenly make happen, like making sure you're not a financial burden, or making sure, you've lived a fulfilling life. It's like, well, I can't do that if I'm already in the hospital, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is about how, how you live is how you die.
And the one thing I did notice about this is it seems to be preparing us more for hospice or hospital care rather than, for instance, my friend last year was hit by a car and killed pretty much instantly, and so most of this doesn't seem that it would apply in that situation.
And yes, it would, because if it was a friend that was killed instantly, and if you know what the Dharma will is, there's practices after death. It's not just about, it's not just about a crisis that results in death. So, thank you, great question.
And if I can jump in, actually, I think that goes to what Meredith just said, that this is not something that you wait until you're dying. You're doing this work all the way along. And then if you do get hit by a car, you might be ready to be at peace. You might be, have all these things that are, at least spiritually, the pieces might be in place.
Yeah. And so that's the whole purpose to doing this, so that you can have some way of beginning to do this process for yourself. Okay, Michael?
I love the idea of how can I be of benefit to others, you know? And I go back to that, what often people would consider pretty morbid, you know, Venerable Amy's talk about the idea of a sky burial and the way they do it in Tibet. And that would be wonderful. I just would love to be of benefit in that way, you know? It's, I guess I'm channeling John Prine too, you know, please don't bury me beneath the cold, cold ground. I'd rather have them chop me up and pass me all around. But that would be great. And we can't do that here in the West, unfortunately. And the things that about dying at home as opposed to the hospital have a lot to do with that idea that the institution and being left alone is very difficult sometimes when you just passed away.
Okay.
I tried very hard when my sister died a year and a half ago to do these things but I was up against a lot of forces, mainly her kids, who did not accept her dying, and it was not easy in that way because it was inevitable and it was apparent to me, and it was not being accepted. So it's hard to navigate sometimes.
Yeah. And so the way of benefiting other people would be being present to those people where they're at, because if they can develop some kind of peaceful mind, it will benefit the person leaving. You know, you deal with what you got. So, well.
Clarissa has her hand up.
Hi,
Go ahead.
Okay.
Hi. Last April, I nearly died. And it was unexpected. It wasn't, I didn't have any kind of illness. I just collapsed with sepsis in Portugal. And what I can say about the experience for me personally is it wasn't a problem. The dying process it was very easy. And at some point, my experience of it was that I was given a choice and I chose not to. But so that experience in itself, for me wasn't, and I had no preparation. So now what I'm doing is trying to do all the worldly things one does to have everything together and easy for everyone else.
Okay.
Because eventually it'll happen again. So that's what
That's great. Thank you. Glad you're still with us.
yes. And at some point I'd like to talk to someone about having something together locally for prayers, but and that's my one
Something together. You want something together?
Meaning, you know, nuns or Donna or some few people come and do some prayers if I.
Okay, well, that's all part of the Dharma wheel.
Yeah, right.
That will be here at the center. So, and also for you to share with friends. So my thing is do not assume that people know what you want. It doesn't matter how close you are to them. It's just not something they think about. So, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate it, Clarissa.
I have one.
Go ahead.
I was just thinking the chaplain thing. Without knowing, I feel like I helped my best friend to pass with the medicine Buddha, but it doesn't start just when they're dying. It's been like having friends and doing the things they want to do for them and being able to go through their life, not expecting anything. But I feel like at the end it became medicine Buddha while they were dying, and I was able to visit and see and be there. And then they died, it seems, accordingly with the medicine Buddha prayer that I gave to the family. So everything makes sense the whole time I spend time with this older person. It's like completed every aspect of their wish. So even as normal people, we could do so many things. And when I visit to India, I meet so many people in the Buddhist path, and they're like, you're always listening to them. And even here in the Bible study, when I go to, a lot of people, even though they're different religion, but they have same anxiety and fears. And when I share Buddha's perspective, they appreciate it so much than like regular people. So it's kind of interesting to me, my learning and journey.
I think it's important to remember that, you know, the Dalai Lama says that Buddhism is a philosophy, it's a way of life, and it can be a religion. And so there's an awful lot of information in Buddhism that would apply to any spiritual path someone was on. And so I think that's kind of important to remember in terms of sharing, like you're talking about. You know, you're not trying to, as the Dalai Lama says and Geshe says, I'm not trying to make you Buddhist. So, thanks. Okay. I'm thinking, it's just my thought, but doesn't mean it's everybody else agrees. I'm thinking that going through some of the resources before we do the Dharma wheel, I go through that, and well, you got to pull it up online, because Donna, it's in the links, right, Donna? The Dharma wheel, the form. Yeah. So you got to. So if you don't have electronics, we got a problem. And we were careful about not using resources and making unnecessary copies. So
if you go to the calendar page for today's event, and then go, it's down near the bottom, the Kadampa Center Dharma wheel.
And also, if you go to the banner, it says my name, and then it says more, and all of that stuff comes up.
Yes, you can also just, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's just another path that's kind of right there.
Yes, the links will still be available. I'll probably put them up under spiritual programs so people can find them.
Yeah.
But they'll still be on this event.
Yeah, and I might have a few, will it be a problem if I give you a few more links, Donna? Okay, great. Thank you. So I'm going to just kind of start with resources and then go into the Dharma wheel. First of all, there's several books out there, most of them by Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and one by the Dalai Lama, and a couple of other people. They're just for you to look at. They're from my library, and so my intention is to take them home. And then there are, I think, 3 cards, and they're and this is also, well, one is not, but it's the mantra that you place on people when they're dying or very sick or going into surgery. And so that's on that's one of the links so that you can print it out for yourself, okay? And then, let's see, this is, and I think I have enough and I have to find, there isn't a link to this with, from Transitions, because they haven't put it on their website yet. It's an aspiration. So there's enough here. I made copies yesterday, and we'll get into this, but it's all the resources for advanced life directives. There's the video, the conversation practice, 5 wishes, the Go Wish cards, how to select your healthcare proxy, and North Carolina specific rules on advanced directive but I'll talk more in detail, and all of the links are on here. So if we scan it in, then the problem is that the links won't be live, right? What? No, I meant if we scan this in, right, that's all I'm saying, is that it's not like the other links. Okay, so, and I might be able to do some work. So who would like to, you're the official paper hander-outer, okay? Bless my printer for behaving well last night. And let's see, we can just, Alex, I should have, yeah. Let's see, well, and pass, and then maybe you can you do all three at the same time? You're very good at this. One of those and one of these, okay? Oh, sure, duh. Okay, there you go, thank you. So those are some things that are not great, thanks. Okay. Okay. So if people can, I have 10 copies of the 5 wishes. You can download a copy for free, but if we need to look at it, can people, I can share these and then people could share? Would that work? If you're sitting next to each other. Here we go. Like Alex and Sandra. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for asking. Okay. Thank you very much. Oh, okay. So I think that some people need to share because I don't think Linda has one, and I don't think you got it pulled up online. Okay. For people who have electronics that can pull it up. Lori, did you get one? Okay. Do you need to see one? What? Which one? There you go. Here, you need to take that off. It won't just pull easily. There you go. Okay. So Lori, do you want to look? Donna, do you have one, or you pulled it up online? You got one. Lori, do you want to look on one while you're okay. Okay. So, hey, thank you. Appreciate it. So, yeah. I'll let you know. I'm not quite sure. I got to figure it out. There we go. Okay. So who has electronics that they can look at the Dharma will that Donna had online? One. Yeah, you've got it online, right? Yeah? Michael, do you have it online, the Dharma will? It's on the, if you go to the Kadampa Center and look at, yeah, there should be the Dharma will there. You have it right, Larry? Yeah. So I think we're all good.
I don't see it, but I'm not sure how it is named.
It is. There it is. Yeah. I know it's there because I printed it last night.
Oh, it
If
says
you go
Dharma
to
will?
the program, if you go to the description of the program, there's a link further down.
It says more.
Yeah, down at the bottom.
On the banner, there's me, there's I,
Yes,
rather.
I am on this.
And look at more. Read down to the end of the paragraph and look at more. See it?
Or under resources, it's under Dharma will, and then it says, the link says Kadampa Center Dharma will.
Well, but I mean, okay, so that's, what? Well, it is, if you look at the thing, unless it's been taken off, but, what? Okay, it doesn't have that, okay, sorry. Thank you, she's the one that did it, so she knows best. So everybody where they need to be, or want to be? Okay. So it's, again, to address Mark's thing, before, during, and after death, these are my wishes. So, I'm a little confused. It indicates email. So, somehow my name ended up in there, record J.C. White, but I mean, wouldn't it be your personal email, Donna? Right, it's my will. Then, section 1, tell us who you are. What's your name? What's your email address? I mean, this is just practical stuff. Phone number. Are you a KC member? Okay. And this is going to be, it's going to be a spreadsheet that Donna's developing. These, as a document, will not be on file here. So that's why, all the information will be there, but it'll be on a spreadsheet. So people can look it up, or, there you go. Donna will talk about how that's going to work, probably closer to when it's ready to work, right? Okay. Okay. So do they don't fill it in, though, do they? Oh, they fill it in. Okay, well, that's something, yeah, that's something I didn't know.
It is ready to go right now, and people, you can access it anytime, fill in your own information of what you want for your, at the time of death. So, yeah, this is a totally
It's already, it's live.
self-directed, and then it's saved as a spreadsheet that our pastoral care people at the center will have access to. So the nuns will have access to it. If somebody's in a crisis and needs the nuns to come, then they can access this and see, oh, she wants medicine Buddha puja, he wants Tara praises, he wants Chenrezig mantras chanted. So all of that is access to, it's not, the results aren't accessible to everybody, but they are accessible by our nuns.
So just to make something clear, if we fill this out right now without really thinking it through, we won't be able to go in and update it. So maybe we should.
You should be able to go in and update it.
Okay.
And if you can't, just, do a new one, and it does save the time when something was done, so we can look for the most recent one. And if you do go in and change it, not a bad idea to shoot an email to me so I can search for both and get rid of the older one, just for clarity.
Thanks. Thank you, Linda. That's great. And then, so who are you going to share this information with? And that's important because, well, it's important for a lot of reasons, and you can have more than one or two people, is that if these people call the center asking for help, because it could be someone that is not Buddhist, wants to respect your wishes, but wouldn't even have a clue how to begin to implement them. And so if these people are listed and they contact the center, then we can share this spreadsheet with them. And also, this is really important for you to have a conversation with people, again, getting ready and having them, that they have a hard copy or the online copy that they can access. So now we get to practices. Before and dying, practices, mantras, sutras, and prayers I would like recited besides me or played from recordings, on YouTube or whatever works. And the reason this is really important is, again, a person may not be able to tell you what it is that they want to hear. And to know what people want to hear prior to that is extremely useful. And also, I think it gives people comfort knowing that they have confidence that somebody will do this with them or for them. And also, this doesn't mean you couldn't be, like, you couldn't, when it says beside me, but it doesn't, but beside me could be technical or in person. So it's, the whole thing, practices, prayers, mantras, sutras, and environment. That's really, really important in terms of, like at transitions, the resident hospice, if you're admitted to the hospice unit there, every room has a window. And so you can see outdoors, and that would be incredibly important to me. I don't know about other people, but for me, I would not want to be in a room with no, and warm. One of the cards was touch, what kind of softness you want, that all of those things that are important for people that they might not be able to tell you about. And for you to think about what's going to help you. And the key is what's going to help you have a peaceful mind, and for as long as you can, doing, a spiritual practice as simple as Om Mani Padme Hum. So the prayers and practices after death. If the body is not disturbed immediately after death, practices can be done in person or from recordings. I'm going to talk a little bit about for example, if my body needs to be moved quickly, that one would, like within an hour, one would tug, on the crown chakra. If there's any hair, it'd be hard to do it for me, but so you could tap it, and that helps the mind leave the body in a way that doesn't disturb the mind. So, and here's some other information. If the person's at home, you can not touch the body. And here's some of the things that I know from hospice that they so graciously do. Let's say there's a nurse from hospice that is there when the person passes. They are required to determine medical death, which means they have to touch the body. But you can say to the hospice nurse, you can leave now and we'll call you when we're ready to have you declare death. And they'll leave. Now, if they don't, well, then you might have to get a little assertive. But on the whole, Transitions has said they would do that they had no problem. The person was already dead, so declaring time of death was not a crisis that had to be attended to immediately. So those are some of the things that, you know, if they're Buddhist and they want, or even a family member that you would like some space with. In nursing homes, very interestingly, you've already paid for the room for 24 hours. I mean, it's already paid. Now, they may need the bed, but they can wait until the next morning. And the same, now, most times hospitals can't, but they can give you, most hospitals can give you at least an hour. Transitions, most hospice places, they're just lined up to be able to be admitted. And they said they can commit to 4 hours, which is not great, but I'm glad. The other thing that, you know, many spiritual traditions do is that the family bathes the body. And that might be something one wants to do or not do. And it's, well, and I don't know, I know that the chaplains from the Zen Center, New York Zen Center, will do it with you. You know, you don't have to be alone doing that, or the family doesn't have to be alone doing that. They will support you in doing that. And many people that weren't sure about it and they decided they would do it said it was just a very meaningful experience that for the person. So practices that I would like done after death, you know, it's 49 days. You know, and even if the person, their mind has left the body, they may be in the bardo, they may have taken rebirth, you know, very quickly. At the same time, those practices help. I don't have this written down, and I need to, but years ago, there's many variations of the bardo moves in 7-day segments. You know, each point is a kind of a transition. Geshe-la says that most of us take rebirth, you know, find a womb within 2 or 3 days. So what Geshe-la says is, this is how you determine. If a person dies on the 13th, then that's the first day. And so on the 7th day would be, you know, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Makes sense? So that's how it's determined. There's other descriptions. Go ahead, Donna.
An easy way to remember that is if the person dies on Saturday, the 7th day is Friday. If the person dies on Monday, the 7th day is Sunday, etc.
Right, yeah. I mean, just kind of not even worrying about the dates. Right. So, because there's other things, if they die before noon, if they die between noon and 5, and Geshe-la said, just keep it simple. And I like Geshe-la's description, so that's what I would do. And I'm going to just take a minute and talk about organ donation. And Rabina, I think, talks about this, and other people talk about it. If you're doing like your eyes or something, because they can do that after death, although it's fairly immediate. If you're doing, a thing to keep in mind is organ donation is a tremendous act of generosity. What we need to be aware of as individuals is they keep the body, that while they're determining about the person being, brain dead and not coming back, the mind is still there. And when they go to surgery for the heart organs to be harvested, the mind is still there. As long as their breath, even if it's, being helped, they're on oxygen, the mind is still there. So what's happening is that they're harvesting organs on a live body, in which the mind, a body that, is brain dead, but alive, and the mind is still there. So that could be a little disturbing to one's mind stream. So it's an important thing to think about if you kind of have the bodhicitta to do that. One of the people that did that was Tim Powell. Years ago when he died, was in a severe accident. And I have to say, for the family and for the nuns that were there present, they let us into the room where he was, and we did, prayers pretty constantly for the 24, 36 hours. But the whole process of deciding he's, brain dead is a harrowing process for the family, and whatever. At least that's what I found to be true in that case. Mantras that I would like recited beside me. Sutras. So, and it's actually interesting, a friend of mine, he was with his sister when she was dying, and she wasn't Buddhist, and transition was not going to be easy. But he called me and said, "My sister wants to talk to you." I said, "Sure." And so I ended up on the phone with her, and she said, "Are there any prayers you can say for me while I'm on the phone?" And I said, "Well, the best one I know is Medicine Buddha." So I recited that, 21 times, and asked, and she said, "Oh, that's wonderful," and that was the end of the conversation. So, go ahead.
If you choose organ donation and say they have to keep your body alive for another day or two, does the bardo day one start when they harvest it?
Only when the mind leaves the body.
So when you're clinically dead, brain dead, that's the first day of the bardo?
No, that's not. The mind has not.
Right.
Clinical death and the mind leaving the body are completely separate.
Okay, so the first day of Buddhist death is the day they harvest the organs and you're completely
Yeah, because in
gone.
surgery, you don't know exactly what time it happens.
Even if it's a day or
right.
two after
Right,
their brain
exactly.
death.
Thank you. Great question. I'm a wimp. I had been an organ donor and I took my name off the list. There you go. Yes.
I have heard they don't want old bodies anyhow, so it kind of felt like,
Well, I think what they do,
For me,
what they do at organ donation, it doesn't, well, it matters what age you are, but they find the health of each organ. And so they might not be able to take your liver, but they can take your lungs. So like at 74, when they do oxygen with me, I'm at 98%. So that's why I can talk so fast. And so I'm not saying it would, but there would be a very good chance that they would use mine. And, I don't know about, I just happen to know that because every time you go to the doctor, they go, put this on your finger. So that's the determination and stuff. Now, donating your body to, let's say, a cadaver to be used, that obviously would be after both clinical death and the mind leaving the body, and that would be a way of being of benefit. And there's other ways that you can be, there's also harvesting tissue. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other things that you're dead. You're dead both, physically and entering the body, okay? Hope that helps a little bit. So, and then, section 4 is the practices that you would want done after death. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're different. Geshe-la says that the most powerful thing to do is Medicine Buddha, the Medicine Buddha puja. And that you can sponsor one here at the center, right? And that, well, depending on resources and time and stuff like that, but that can be live, right, Donna? I mean, when the family gathers or people come, yeah. And then the other thing that we used to do that we don't do so much anymore, but is also a way of helping the person in the bardo, I think the 5 powers, that is a way of supporting the person in the bardo, and it's really wonderful for a memorial service because you're reminding the person of all of their positive qualities from different perspectives that they had in this life, and encouraging them to carry, that they ripen very quickly. Donna, did you want to say something?
Yeah, that memorial service was designed to have those reminders be spoken by people who knew the deceased person very well. So, it's unlike a funeral where you might have someone who doesn't even remember the name of the person that the funeral is for, but it's and you would want to do that fairly soon after death. So.
Yeah, we try to, like Geshe-la said, like a week, within 14 days if it can be. And if the family can't gather and they really want the family there, that, and like I did it for my mother, and it was very beneficial to me, and I'm glad I did it. So, and it's also something I hadn't thought about, but it's also something that if you do the Medicine Buddha puja, any one of that I can think of, the nuns, if we were around and available and the family wanted to do it, we would sit with you. It doesn't have to be a formal thing at the center. Or if Donna had the bandwidth, or any of the people that are here that are practitioners, they would I can't believe people would say, oh no, So, and this is all of these things are in the red fancy book, right? And they're in just about any of Lama Zopa's stuff. And it's out on the table, but there's also a little booklet that you can download electronically. The FPMT resources on this are amazing. You can download that. It's an incredible description of it. And so that is those things are available. All the pictures I have out there are available, on the website. And the mantra is, but you've got that now because all you have to do is print it out. Let's see. Any questions so far? Yeah, Mark, go ahead.
It's not really a question, more, have not heard or seen this on any of the resource lists, which is a book called Dalo, Beyond the Journey Beyond the Death Realms, which was a book written based on Chagdud Tukulu's mother, who was a Dalok, who travels outside. Chagdud Tukulu.
Okay.
And, but I've not heard any reference to that at all, but it may be something, especially for people who are interested in the Bardo states and that type of thing,
wow.
that may be a helpful book for.
Yeah, well, if you go to Tricycle, they have multiple courses. You know, I can't think of the name. I took one course by a gentleman, and it was very amazing Buddhist scholar and practitioner. And so there's, you know, I can't even, I'm sure that there's tons of resources out there. My specifically, thank you for sharing, but my specific thing is, what are the rubber to the road tools that people need, you know, if they want to work on this? So I think that's, and then after cremation, I mean, that's if you do cremation, or you could do green burial. We're not quite doing, sky burial yet. Well, the Native Americans do it, have a great relationship with the Native Americans, and on their reservations, they don't chop up the body, but they're up above so it is not the only tradition that does that, okay? So, gosh, we're doing really well. So the 5 wishes are, it's very useful, and it's more detailed. What I like about it, like under wish 3, my wish for how to be comfortable, and it lists some options that a person might be of value to. I mean, so we can just kind of briefly, if you've got that here, and again, this is a legally binding document in 46 out of the 50 states. You have to have it notarized. And I think you have to have it notarized every year. Well, I could be wrong. A holographic will you need to notarize, not every year. I can't remember what the law is on that in North Carolina. But a holographic will it's when you just write it out. It has to be written in your own handwriting. It cannot be typed. It can't be electronic. And it has to be signed by you. And it doesn't even, I don't know if it even has to be, and it has to be dated. I have to check. This is my poor memory. I don't know if it has to be notarized. But let's say you haven't gotten your affairs in order, right? But you really know the big, broad brush stuff that you want, and if you're able to do it, and you're able to write it, you can write that out in hand, and that is legally binding in every state in North Carolina, in the United States. As a matter of fact, according to one lawyer, it's harder to break than another kind of will. And obviously that's like when I was going to India for the first time in 2004, I didn't have a will. I mean, I still thought it was delusional and thought nothing was going to happen to me. And I wrote one, and it was about, what I wanted when I died, where my resources went, and, just it was like, maybe 150 words long. It was pretty simple. And so that's an important thing to know in terms of this. So, but I found the way it very specifically talks about what does it look like how do I want to be treated? My wish for comfort. And I'm going to just follow up on, very briefly, on Carrie's statement about presence. And this is an experience, it's, I only have my experience or the experience of some people, is, again, when I was I don't remember which time, I have had multiple, unfortunately, hospitalizations, because my body just likes to arise with complications. So, the nurses, they had to come in and do your vitals, they had to come in and do this, yada, yada, yada. And that's why you get no sleep in a hospital. And so and most of them, they were just very efficient. Do you need anything? And then you would ask them and they'd say, I'll be right back, and they just show up for 45 minutes. But this one nurse came in and she was just doing, pulse, checking the IV or whatever it was. I don't think she probably said 10 words, right? And she was probably in the room shorter than a lot of other nurses. I felt so taken care of. She was so present when she was doing it. I mean, I still can kind of go, oh, I'm so fortunate. So I think that presence doesn't have to take a lot of time. So I just, not that we can be present all the time. I can't get through the 7-limb prayer without making a grocery list. So.
Khando, there's a question on Zoom.
Oh, sure, yeah, please, thank you.
Clarissa, please go ahead.
Hi, Clarissa.
Hi, I was just going to make a couple of comments because I was deeply involved with a death that happened last August, and what I wanted to say was, and this was not a Buddhist, but he died in Big Duke in Durham, and I think I had and there was a chaplain who was very kind. And I think we had 3 hours after he was legally dead to leave him in the room.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say that. The other thing is that I want to emphasize, yes, if you haven't been to a lawyer, write it down, because in his particular case, by the time that he was doing very poorly, we had expected him to live much longer, that I wrote it down, and that was not legal, even though he signed it and it was witnessed.
Yeah, that's why. But I mean, if you're stuck right now and you don't know when you're going to get a lawyer, and but the broad brush stuff that you want, write it down, sign it, give it to the most important people. I mean, you can make copies of it. You don't have to rewrite it, but, hand it out. So there you go. And
okay, so anyway,
yeah,
just
thank you. I really appreciate it.
About the Duke thing and the fact that it was really possible to leave him.
It was really possible what?
To allow him to stay, wait, until his heart turned cold, which is what I measure, and then even longer than that. But that, even though they wanted the room, they didn't rush it, and that's a local story because that's Duke. So.
Okay. So Donna, in the little foreword, said I was going to give an overview of the death process. And so but I think Venerable Amy on Saturday, if you were here, or you could watch it on YouTube, did an incredible description of the death process, and carried you through it. And also did a wonderful, in terms of prep, the 9-point death meditation. But what is in your resources is that you can print out, it's from the FPMT, and it's a chart of the dissolution. It's very detailed. It goes from aggregate, wisdom, element, source, object, and the internal sign, all the way across. And that's in your resources that you can print out. And I have to say, I've had the privilege in the last few years of being with people when they were close to death or in the death process. And it's so amazing to me that when I first saw this and I read it, it was like, oh yeah, that was what this was happening, this was happening, this was happening. And it's a way of you staying kind of, oh, this is what it happens. And then the other thing is that, being with the person and, saying prayers and also saying, I'm here, it's okay, whatever. So, and this is, I'm going to take this, one of the resources, one of the links that's listed for you is a link to Abhitaba Hospice, which is, I think, in New Zealand. And they have a website, they have a hospice, and their website, in terms of information, support, the prayers, they have a very, not simple, but a much more kind of like, at first, manageable thing about, stages of death. And so I just really recommend, that has been very much my go-to, has been that for, helping people, and I think it's great, but that's in the resources. So, any questions? Yes, Marjorie. Is it Marge or Marjorie? What do you like?
I like Marjorie.
Okay, great. Will do.
Well, I had a question about, all I forget what it's all called, like Mendrup or something, like you put stuff in the nose and mouth and, pills and what are your thoughts about that? Or do you know what Geshe-la thinks about that?
Well, I don't, Geshe-la does. He gave me, when my mother was dying, he gave me some little tiny pills that had been blessed by His Holiness the Dalai Lama to put under, to put in her mouth, under her tongue, right? About the other stuff, it's so beyond, but I think that, first of all, it's, Gloop versus Nyingma versus, there's certain core things that are very similar, but there are other practices that vary. But I would, if it, and also in here is an excellent description of the death process, from Lama Zopa. And also in the RavinaCorton.com, and you can just say how to, whatever. And it's out there, you can take a look at it. So, but now, moving on to a very important thing, which is, I think I handed out a sheet that says the Advanced Life Directive, Advanced Care Planning Resources. I didn't hand it out. The handout team did it. Elise and, oh my gosh, and Alex and Sandra. So I can go through that and just talk a little bit about it and how to use it. I have to say, this is new to me. I have not watched that video, and I kind of intend to. And I've seen some of this, the Conversation Project, and it's about how to start the conversation. I mean, Venerable Amy told this great story about somebody whose her mother, who wouldn't say, what she wanted, or, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. And then, I don't know what Venerable Amy said, but, the mother said, okay. And she just, boom, 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 so people kind of know. And this is a funny story. When Jim Davis was dying, and the last 3 weeks of his life, I was probably at the nursing home 40 to 60 hours a week. And he was one of the spiritual guides in his life was a Methodist minister. And so Jonathan and I met with him and we said, well, what kind of, service, what would you like afterwards? What kind of memorial service? He said, I don't want anything. And of course, Jonathan didn't believe that. He knew him much longer than I did. And so we kind of continued the conversation. And he said, well, that might be cool. That would, okay, yeah. And so, let's talk about what you want. And he said, well, I want it at the Kadampa Center. And I said, and he looked at Jonathan and says, it'll drive the Christians nuts. And then he said, and I'm sure some of the prayers that I once said will annoy the Buddhists. What a great day. And anybody that knew Jim Davis knew that was right in character, right? And then one of the things we said is, you're a service-connected veteran. I mean, he died of Agent Orange, or a complication from Agent Orange. And he was everywhere in Vietnam because he was a photographer. I mean, So Jonathan says, well, you're entitled to a 21-gun salute. Can you see it again? He said, at the center? And I said, well, we can go outside for it or whatever, it's noisy. And so there was an honor guard that came and did it, and then presented the flag to one of the closest family members and stuff. So, it was great. I mean, what I'm saying is that, it was this person that originally it said to me, I want you to guard the door. If I'm dying, I don't want anybody in here. I said, okay, Jim, I'll guard the door. I'm pretty good as a, ask Donna. So, but as it evolved, these people started showing up and showing up and showing up. And one day I was with him and he was just in tears. And he said, I can't handle this outpouring of love. People, he loved music. People came and played music for him. It was like, and then he loved beagles. 2 dogs he owned in his life were beagles. And a beagle rescue group brought beagles in twice for him to pet. And so this is a man that said to me, I don't want anybody in the room. And the only complaint, well, I got lots of complaints from him on occasion, but when I arrived with the Starbucks coffee, not hot enough. So let's move on. So you see the 5 wishes, and on there is the link, and I might try to just copy and paste because if I copy the link, and I paste it, it will be live, right, Donna? If I pull this up and, put it in and then copy it, it'll, yeah. Well, see, she's brilliant. Okay, thank you. So, and then, well, you did both of these, but, so that's an important thing. And then the last one is some guidance on how to select your healthcare proxy, which would mean, there's 2 things. There's and that would mean medical power of attorney. Medical power of, what's the word? Sorry, thank you. What? Power of attorney, medical power of attorney. And they're the ones that, they're the people that when it looks like there's nothing to be remained, and your wishes have been when it's pretty much exhausted and there's no chance of improvement in my returning to any kind of quality of life or functioning, I want to be let go, Or you have to disconnect somebody and they're not able to say. And that is a real challenge because you need to pick somebody because you may, as the medical power of attorney, want to respect the person's wishes, but the rest of the family could be Storm and Norman, and we want to keep them alive. But the truth is that's more about the family than it is about the person that wants to go. And Emily, who most people here don't know, but Donna does, was actually kind of our chaplain, and she was an officially trained chaplain from Duke. She gave a workshop one time, and this always sticks with me, which is she said, it is not the job of the dying person to take care of you. It's their job is dying. Now, it doesn't mean that there won't be something that feels like they're caring for you and all of that stuff, but it means if you need support, think about it, getting it from someplace else, whatever. So, and here's the other thing, healthcare power of attorney. You want to have more than one person, because if that person isn't available, or suddenly, like life circumstances have happened, that they may not be able to do it, it can go down the list. Okay, so that's a really important thing. Or if somebody's unreachable, if the hospital knows that there's somebody else to call. Now, and what that leads to is the North Carolina Specific Living Will and Healthcare Power of Attorney. This is a document, and the link is here. This is a document that you can fill out with all of that information, and you can share it with people, and also it can be registered with it costs $25 unless the price has gone up, to register it with the state of North Carolina. And it will have a number, and you will get a card. I mean, you'll get a whole form, but you'll get a card that has the number on it, and it is legally binding. And I have to say, hospitals are very happy when you go in and you say, this is my healthcare power of attorney card from North Carolina, and they can just put that number in and go online and pull up the whole thing. So, and I know Venerable Amy talked a lot about technical details, about those things, but every state differs. I mean, they may be tremendous similarities, but it's kind of it's a federal law, but it's like many things that are federal. The regulations are determined by the state. And so that's an important thing to know. So that's just FYI. And well, let's see. And this is something that is in this book, and it's in several other books. But there's a practice called, I think I'll say it right, Donna, you correct me, POWA?
POWA.
POWA. And it's the transference of consciousness. And it's usually done by, an ordained Sangha. But in here, there's all the instructions for doing it yourself. And it's not one of my requests or anything, but just to let you know that information is here. So that's it. Whoop, and I forgot, let me see if this is the one. And I forgot to put this out there. Okay, the little mandala, the little sheet that's in your resources is the Namgal mandala, which is what you put on the body like when Tim was being taken we had it on his body, like a whole sheet of them on his body during the process of when they took it off, when they took him for tests and stuff. But I said, as he goes into surgery, I know you'll have to take it off, but can it be on his body? And they said yes. And if the person is cremated, it can be on the body. And so I'll put this outside so people can look at. All of this is available from the FPMT. And some of it is by donation only, you know, like all the PDFs that are there. And some of it is, you know, not a significant fee. And my little compulsive self, because I've been to the hospital several times when people were dying, I've got them laminated. You know, I mean, just, you know, so that, you know, that the wear and tear of my carrying them around is not, whatever. And somebody said about the sense of humor. Some people here, but they came much later, but some people knew a long-term center member named Shanti. And Joanne and Patrick were very much part of her life when her mother was dying, who was also a practitioner. And Joanne and Shanti were there when her mother passed, and she opens her eyes and she looks up and she goes, "Bye." So I hope I can do that, you know. She couldn't wave, but it was like, "Bye." And here's one of the other things that it's a talk I listened to, actually courtesy of Alex and Sandra. So if you want the link, they can share it with you. It was about the nun that talked. It was a 55-minute YouTube video about the dying process. It was fabulous, and it was so coherent and so kind. But here's one of the things that she said that I had not heard before, but now that I did some research, is the first stage of dissolution, which is the limbs become smaller and the body becomes weak and less capable. Well, my mother died on January 6th. I was there for 10 days in November, right? And I remember walking into her, she was in a nursing home. I remember walking into her room and she wasn't there. I mean, she was there physically, but she wasn't there. She was leaving. You know, and I had that sense, but I didn't know anybody wrote about it. So, and what this woman says, this nun says, is that the dying process doesn't start just 24 hours or 36 hours or a week before for some people, you know. So I thought that was really helpful to me in terms of learning to be, you know, kind of how to be present. So there you go. And I think I've given you all my chips. I don't have anything more to offer other than if you can ask me questions above my pay grade, I'll refuse to answer them. So go for it.
So a question that I really don't know anything about.
Okay.
Is there a way to keep government officials out of your business of dying? In other words, legally, there's federal regulations, but can you bypass that?
Well, I don't know what federal regulations you're talking about, Mark, but if you have friends and you choose to die at home, then you have full control over it. Because the friends are there to take care of you. Bye. Sorry. No. Oh, great, thank you. Thank you for being here, Marjorie. Yeah. If I'm ever not a nun, I want all your clothes. Yeah, really, sorry. But I mean, but what I'm saying is if you're alone, if you're at home, and people are be there with you and present, the only thing that medically, legally has to be done, Mark, is that death has to be declared by a healthcare professional.
Right. So I guess that's really more the question is there a way to avoid a healthcare professional declaring you legally dead?
Well, you just take them out in the backyard and you bury them and you don't tell them, but then you're, so, I mean, but what I'm saying is that can be done in 30 seconds. They come in, they do heartbeat, and they write the death certificate. It's not, and if the person dies, you don't have to call them for 2 days. Like with Shanti, they didn't call anybody for 3 days, and it was during the summer, so they roared the air conditioning down to like 60 forever, but they did, the group of them did prayers for 3 days. And then, when they did it. So, does that make any sense? I mean, I know it's still government, but I think it's such a small, interference. They don't tell you what you have to do with, well, I mean, they may tell you what you have to do with the body, but if you've arranged a green burial where someone comes and picks up the body, for example, people of the Jewish faith have to be buried within 24 hours. They are not embalmed, so those are all regulations that religious preference or spiritual preference trumps the law.
Okay, so because I'm a lot along the lines of like what Michael and Amy talked about as far as what I would like done. But
Right.
what I would like done is not permissible in the United States,
Which is,
like a sky burial.
well, talk to a Native American.
Right.
I mean, I understand that that's what you want, and I respect it because
Right.
it's certainly ecologically sound.
Right.
But, and at the same time, there's, it's our karma. It's our communal karma that, and I don't mean that blamingly, but it's our communal karma that we're in times where a lot of choices that we think would care for us have been legislated. But yeah, thanks. I mean, that'd be great. Bye, Michael. Thank you. You're gonna get to spend time with Jasper? Great. Bye. Anything else? And if you have any questions, if anybody wants my phone number or my email address, I will either try to find the answer or I might have the answer. Yes, Linda.
Are you and the other Kadampa Center nuns available for people to call to come to the hospital? And if so, like what do you typically do for a Buddhist specifically?
Okay, well, Chukila more than willing to, but can't. Now, miracles can happen and things can improve, but she is more than absolutely willing to. But her health condition doesn't, permit that right now, okay? That's it. Lama La, she will go and do prayers. She will happily go and do prayers, but she's very uncomfortable having a conversation with people. You know what I mean? To be there and talk about the process and offer support and ask the family what they want and all, that's just not in her ballpark, right? So she and I make a great team. I run around finding out information and supporting the family, and she does prayers. So we're we're a good team, but that's a possibility. one of the things that's and I'm more than willing to go to the hospital if I'm in town when, let's say, the family is gathered and it looks like the person will pass that night or something. I'm more than willing to go to the hospital. The catch with me is I don't drive after dark. Matter of fact, one time somebody they were passing and I got the call, and it was night, it was a Saturday, couldn't reach anybody from the center, called one of my neighbors, and he took me. So, and I guess I could have gotten I'd never taken an Uber. It didn't even dawn on me to do something as practical as that, to take an Uber. So, but yeah, more than willing to. And people that come to me, I've helped a lot of people that, aren't sure how to do the Dharma will or the 5 wishes, that, I've sat down with them and we've kind of gone through it, and they say it's been helpful, so I'm just going to trust that.
So once you're there, what are some of the things you do?
It depends on the situation. I mean, usually if they're unresponsive, I just go in and start doing medicine Buddha. And this is a tough one. There's one death I was present at, and the family was playing country and Western music in the room. And I don't know the person, but they were doing it for themselves. And it was, that was their comfort. And the hospice doctor was there. And I said, could you do me a favor? And she said, what? I said, I know this person. I think that music is probably quite disturbing to their mind stream. Do you, it would be much better coming from a doctor. Would you go in and talk to them? And she said, oh yeah, great idea, no problem. And she did it, So that's, so I mostly, and sometimes, you can see the family needs to talk. So I'll step outside the room and just talk with them. Or if it's something that can be talked, the other thing is if they're asking questions about the person, I never, or that's not true, never, that's not me, but I attempt to remember to not talk about the person in the third person. That one of the last senses to go is hearing. And so that's an important thing to do. And afterwards, like when I was with Jim, I was there when he died, and the family showed up shortly afterwards. And I really wanted, they would have let me spend the, next 24 hours there. He paid for the month. So I said, I really wanted to be there a couple hours and do some prayers, and ones that I knew he liked. And the family was, we want to pack it up, we want to do this, we want to do that. And they just moved into tornado process. And even before the body had been taken out of the room. But it wasn't my place, it wasn't my place. So I just tried to sit in a corner while they were packing everything up. And I couldn't do complicated prayers, but I could keep saying medicine Buddha, So that's how I handled it, but it's.
One more question.
Sure,
So
go
when
ahead.
we're doing this Dharma will on the Khando Center website, can we put you, call Khando?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the whole point. And the issue is, as Donna pointed out, is that who's going to know to call me? In other words, the center needs to know that the person died. And then somebody's got to have the bandwidth to look at the spreadsheet and call somebody. And since we're an all-volunteer organization, that's a kind of bit of a challenge.
You should be able to print your own copy of your own will, so that, your family members would have that.
Right, and you can put my name on it happily, And if I'm away, which I am away for several months during the summer, into my physically happy place, but I'm available by phone, and I'm available by Zoom. I mean, in terms of thinking through stuff or figuring out what the research were, or even, whatever, so I'm more than, I've done that a lot, so, not a lot, but there you go.
And just FYI, before we go, Alex very kindly brought me the link to that death
great.
process YouTube video, and that is now also on the page.
Wow, 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 as Lama
We're
Zopa
a
would
team.
say.
I just want to mention something about the video so that you don't get confused, because we got a little confused. I think that nun, she is from a different tradition, and she said they don't touch. So they said, don't touch your head so that the mind leaves the body, because she said, you cannot make the mind make the body or something like that. And remember, I asked you that because we got so confused about it, because we say, yeah, you should touch the head so that it leaves through the head. So don't get confused. She's from a different tradition, but she really nicely explains the dissolution.
And that's true. And the reason we do it in this tradition is it helps the mind leave the body from the crown chakra versus, any of the other orifices, which is, a positive thing. And and I'm not saying, if I knew it and someone had told me that, like Naga, I would absolutely respect that. And at the same time, if, let's say, I don't know that the person's from a different tradition, and I've been asked to be there, or I happen to be there, I don't think Buddha has a really bad day. If I make a mistake but if I knew and I, violate the request, but, so that's, like if you find out later, then but don't beat yourself up. Well, I hear that from all the teachers. It's useless to beat yourself up, so unless you want to increase your stress level. Okay. Any other questions? I really have appreciated everybody being here. I've appreciated the questions, and I hope this was a little bit helpful. And does anybody want my email or phone number? I'm happy to give it to you. A lot of you have it already, but okay. And let's dedicate. Oh, go ahead.
I have a short thing to share. While I was in India, I think there was a Poa retreat with Mingyur Rinpoche or something, and someone from Canada died during the retreat. And what a chance. And they did all the ceremonies.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah. So thank you. That's like what better way to go, huh? So let's dedicate and what? Let's see. I just need one back. I've got, and other than that, everybody that wants to keep it can keep it. And if they don't want to keep it because they're just going to do it online, give it to me. Thank you. Okay, we're good. So let's see, my dedication. So now that we didn't plant the tree with the roots in the air, its roots in the air, let's set the aspiration that, Lama laws like this, that all sentient beings, from the tiniest microbe under, on our body, to the precious human rebirth that enables you to practice the Dharma, can leave this life with a peaceful mind. And that we have created the merit and the positive karma to have the kind of supports and conditions that will allow us to leave with a peaceful mind. Omahom, omahom, omahom. So again, thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
We'll close the Zoom room now.
Great, thank you so much.